My goal in the few minutes that we have together this morning is I want to give you a snapshot of the future of Rotary. Not in terms of programs or policies, but in terms of people. We're going to look at the next generation of Rotarians who are going to be entering your clubs in the coming years and decades. What are they looking for? How do they think? And what does this mean for you as an organisation? As you just heard, my name is McQueen, and my background professionally is in the study of youth culture and strategies for bridging the generation gap. Over the past few years, much of my work has been with organisations around the world, helping them better understand and engage the next generation, a group called Generation Y. Now, I don't know what your experience has been, but in Australia, and certainly here in the US, this younger generation receive a fair bit of criticism. The media are quick to tell us that Generation Y are all celebrity-obsessed, self-absorbed, materialistic, impatient, and disrespectful. Now, of course, if you believe everything that you read and hear about today's youth, you could be forgiven for assuming that this is a generation who would have very little interest in joining an organisation like Rotary. However, having spent 3 years working with and researching over 80,000 young people and then writing a book based on the findings, I would suggest that there is in fact a lot to be hopeful about when we look at the next generation of leaders. In fact, I would go as far as to suggest that this next generation represents an enormously exciting opportunity for Rotary. Now, that's a bold statement, but I believe this for 3 reasons. Number one, Generation Y are globally minded. Having grown up with the internet, for Gen Y, the world has become a very small place. Through online social interaction, many of this group have networks of friends around the globe who are only ever just a click away. Yet because the world has become so interconnected, young people today are acutely aware of global issues and concerns. More importantly, they actually believe that such a small world can be changed. Isn't that exciting? See, what they are looking for is a vehicle through which they can change the world. Enter Rotary. The second reason this generation are such exciting news for Rotary is that they are socially engaged. Now, contrary to the self-centred reputation that many young people have, recent studies have shown that over 70% of this group volunteer on a weekly basis. Not only do this group feel they can make a difference, they genuinely want to. And the third reason Generation Y are good news for Rotary, they are ambitious. Now, you know as well as I that young people are always in a rush. They write text messages, they drive through traffic, they even eat meals as if there were no tomorrow. Naturally, such a sense of urgency also extends to their professional lives. Gen Y are desperate to get ahead in their careers and are actively looking for mentors and networking opportunities that will help them to do so. Your clubs are an ideal way for this younger generation to make the cross-generational connections that they are searching for. After all, you don't just build communities that bridge continents, you also build communities that bridge generations. As one young Rotarian recently said, "Why wouldn't I join Rotary when it gives me the chance once a week to sit down for lunch with someone who I would otherwise have to pay $250 an hour to speak with?" See, but this all begs a question. If Rotary offers so much of what young people are looking for, why aren't more of them joining? Why is it that only 2% of Rotary's membership are under the age of 30 and only 11% are under the age of 40? Well, perhaps it's because, number one, they don't know who you are. Now, although the Rotary wheel may be one of the most identifiable brands on earth, I would suggest that many, many young people have very little real idea of why Rotary exists and what it is that you do. As an indication of this, I recently conducted a survey of some young people to find out what their perceptions of Rotary were. And you'll be pleased to know that the vast majority of the respondents viewed Rotary very positively. However, when I asked this group to describe what they perceived Rotary to be about, the most common response I got is that they perceived Rotary as an exclusive club for wealthy, retired men who meet once a week to socialise and eat bad food. Can you believe it? Okay, that's their perception. Now, clearly, this perception is far from accurate, or at least it is in most clubs. Okay, it's far from accurate, and yet the challenge that you face is to change this perception. The second reason Gen Y may not be joining your clubs is they don't know if they are welcome. Now, I'll never forget a conversation I had last year over lunch with the ever-passionate past RI President, Frank Devlin. And over our meal, Frank was grilling me as to why I was not a Rotarian, to which I simply responded, I have never been asked. See, in the same way, how many other potential members are there in your communities who would seriously consider joining Rotary but have simply never had the invitation? And this is especially true for young people who may look at clubs where the average age is over 60 and wonder if someone their age would even be welcome. As an interesting side note, that group of young people I mentioned just having surveyed were all RILA participants. And when I asked them the question, how many of you would like to join Rotary in the future based on your experience at RILA, a massive 81% said they would. Now, you know as well as I that if no one invites them, very few, if any, of that 81% will actually one day join. Now, this raises another really important point. How many Rotaractors each year fail to transition from Rotaract into Rotary at age 30 simply because no one from their sponsor club had taken the time to build a relationship and encourage them to take that step? Now, after all, young people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. The third reason this group may not be joining your clubs is they don't know if they have time. Now, younger generations have been raised in a far more fast-paced world than the one that existed even 30 years ago. The demands on their time, energy, and attention are enormous. Unfortunately, many Rotary clubs can become so heavily focused on expectations of meeting attendance or committee involvement that potential young members are scared off and simply perceive Rotary as a lot of restrictive rules and time-consuming hard work. Now, let's be clear. Whenever you hear a young person say, I don't have time for Rotary, and I'm sure you've all heard that, when you hear that said, this group are always stating a priority rather than a fact. Now, we're all busy people, and we have to make time for the things that matter. As such, your challenge is to communicate to young people the compelling reasons and benefits for joining Rotary, not simply the compliance-driven requirements of being a member. This is something I'll discuss a lot more in my breakout session this afternoon at 3:30. You know, like Frank Devlin, you may find it a little bit strange that I have spent much of the last 2 years travelling around the world speaking at district conferences, talking to Rotary groups about how they can attract young members, and yet all the while, I haven't been a Rotarian. Ironic, isn't it? See, the truth is, I knew all about Rotary. I knew all the impressive statistics about Rotary's size and influence. I knew of the amazing accomplishments of this organisation around the globe in fighting disease and helping those in need. I knew Rotary, but up until very recently, I didn't really know Rotary. However, I'll never forget the moment when I truly understood for the first time what makes this organisation so powerful and unique. It was September last year, and I was at Johannesburg Airport waiting for my flight home after speaking at a Zone Institute in Uganda. As I sat in the terminal, I watched with interest as CNN played footage of the UN General Assembly locked in debate as to why so little real progress has been made toward the Millennium Development Goals. Watching the debate rage, I reflected on everything that I had seen and heard in the preceding days about the difference Rotarians are making in Africa, the very tangible, practical difference. And in that moment, it became powerfully clear. The UN cannot bring about global change on their own. Neither can governments, philanthropists, or multinational corporations for that matter. It's you, Rotarians, an army of 1.2 million ordinary, everyday people who truly have the power to change the world. And realising that profound truth in that moment, all I knew is that I wanted to be part of it. And as of February 28th this year, I officially joined your ranks, and I'm proud to say that I am a Rotarian. But that's not the point. The point is that I'm not alone. There are a multitude of passionate, engaged, and inspired young people around the world right now who are ideally placed to join this incredible organisation. However, it is up to you to make sure they have the invitation, opportunity, and permission to do so. I wish you all the very best. Thanks so much.